Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar. Today we'll be talking about building a client portal on Noloco, powered by Airtable, a favorite topic of everyone's. And I'm really excited to kick this off. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. Big welcome to everyone. We're still kind of getting used to running these webinars, and it's so great to see everyone kind of turn up. And I really hope you get some value out of today. I have absolutely no doubt that you will. A few things before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, so that means you'll be able to get the recording at the end. So we'll be sending this out as soon as it's ready, so you can watch it in full detail afterwards. You can rewind, you can replay your best bits. It'll all be online and it'll all be on our website. We do encourage you to ask questions. We'll be having a Q&A halfway through and at the end. And just like last time, there'll be a prize for the best question. Today, we're giving away a Noloco hoodie. They're pretty rare, so prepare your best questions, and we'll pick the best question, and we'll get you out a hoodie as soon as we can. And yeah, we should be wrapping this up within the hour, so we'll be finishing at what's 5:30 for me. I appreciate that everybody's joined from all corners of the world today. So about an hour's time, basically, we'll be finishing up. First, an intro. My name's Darragh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Noloco. I know my name's hard to say, but it's just Darragh. I'll say it one more time. Noloco is a platform for building no-code applications powered by your data. So you can turn your data into an internal tool or a client portal or a custom CRM or really anything else. And today we'll be talking about building a client portal on Noloco, powered by, of course, Airtable. And there's absolutely nobody better probably in the world to introduce this topic other than Scott Rose. He's joining us today. Scott is an Airtable consultant, an expert Airtable user. He's an OG in the space. He works for himself at Scottworld.com. Scott, so glad you can join us today. If you want to pop on your camera and give yourself a quick introduction.
Thank you, Darragh. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for that great introduction too.
No problem at all.
Oh, yes. Oh,
right.
Did you want me to do an introduction? I will do it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to say a few words, you hype yourself up a little more. Feel free to say, say whatever you want.
No, it was such a great introduction. I was like, oh, that's that. I don't need to say anything. But yeah, I was one of the original 10 Airtable consultants. Or even Airtable created their original consultant program. And my database experience goes back almost 40 years. I started building databases when I was a little kid. For my first database was creating a system for the local mom and pop video store around the corner from my house. I don't know if anybody on the call is old enough to remember video stores, but
it's incredible.
That's where I got my start. And now I build systems for companies of all sizes. I've built systems with large companies like Spotify and Yamaha Corporation and Sony Pictures and tons of small businesses as well. So thank you, Darragh, for having me on today.
Like I said, literally nobody better in the world to introduce this topic. That's great. Thanks so much. So quick agenda for the webinar today. We'll be learning about client portals. I'm going to let Scott introduce what they are, but hopefully by the end of the webinar, you'll have a really good understanding of not only what is a client portal and why you very likely need one for your business, but also how you can build one on Noloco with Airtable or indeed any other data source. But today we'll be specifically talking about Airtable. So the demo is, we're going to jump into a demo right after this. We'll take about 20 to 25 minutes and we'll take a quick pause for Q&A rather in the middle. So if you do have any questions, send them into the chat and we'll get people to kind of prioritize those questions. And if we have enough questions, we'll stop halfway and get some and try to answer them. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Scott, who's going to tell us a little bit about what is a client portal.
Yes, that is the first question we have to answer. What is a portal? A portal enables your clients to access their own personal data in your Airtable base while preventing them from seeing other people's data. So if you look at the screenshot here, on the left, this is sort of what it would look like in Airtable. All of your clients' data is all combined together in Airtable. And if you were to let one of your clients into Airtable as an Airtable user, they would see all the data mixed together. There are some limited controls in Airtable with interfaces to sort of prevent them from seeing other people's data, but you can't really build an entire portal in Airtable. On the right is what you can do in Noloco. What you can do is you can create an app, a portal app, where your clients log in and all they see is their own data. They don't see any other data intermingled with theirs, and they can update that data. They can communicate with you about their data, and they can do everything that they would expect from a modern web app. And so that explains what a portal is. And it's one of the most common requests that I get from my clients. And so I'm really excited to show you how easy it is and how powerful you can make a portal with Noloco.
Well, I think that's a fantastic introduction, Scott. So I'll hand over to you at this point. I think, yeah, I really love the visualization as well. You really clarified how you kind of streamline each client's data into their own kind of set of silos, so they have their own personalized experience. So yeah, let's hand over to you, Scott, to kind of see how it's done.
Great.
If you want to share your screen.
Absolutely. I'll bring it up right now. And
Perfect.
I wanted to start on this screen because I wanted to just show you that you can customize your screens in Noloco to look however you want it to look. So this screen is a home screen that you could create. This is just a custom screen where I dragged a bunch of these things on here and customized these. This could be, if you wanted to, the experience that you give your clients when they first log in to your portal. But you can make their starting screen look however you wanted to. So I just wanted to show you this just at the start, just so you can see that right off the bat, it starts feeling like a real app, like a real website that your users would expect to log into, as opposed to, when you go into Airtable, people are just thrown into a bunch of data right away. So let's take a look at our Airtable base here. What we're going to do for this demo today is we are going to pretend that we are a marketing agency and we have a bunch of clients and we're working with these clients on different projects. And we want our clients to be able to log in and see how the projects are going, see what tasks have been accomplished for those projects, and we want them to be able to communicate with us on those projects as well. We also want our clients to be able to see any payments that they've made to us over time as well. So in Airtable, this is how we've set up the base. And many of you watching today may already have an Airtable base that's set up very similarly to this. So on this screen right here, we have a list of all the people that we are working with at our different clients. So these, we're calling them our users. And so these would be employees of our different clients. Down here, we also have internal employees that work for our company. We're not going to talk too much about them today, but you can also use Noloco to create portals for your internal team members as well. So they can see just the projects that you want them to see as well. Today, we're mostly going to be talking about your external users, your clients who are not part of your company. So these
you bring up a great point to interject. It means your team and your customers are working in the kind of same place, right? When you do build an app with Noloco, and it means that you're just totally enhancing that collaboration. I think you're right. We're not going to touch on it too much, but I do just want to call that out.
Yeah, exactly. I'll mention a couple times a little bit later on, but you're right. The actual name of this webinar could be changed to how to build a portal for your clients, and then in parentheses, and team members.
Exactly.
Because it's all the same building tools, and it's all combined. You get to make the choice.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so these are all of the people that we work with, and you can see that each one of these people is linked to a particular client. and that's from our clients tab here. So this is a list of all of our clients, and we can see whether they're active or inactive. And then these are the users who we've linked to the certain to each client. And then here are projects that we've linked to each one of the clients. And here's our payments that we've linked to each client. And so if we go to the projects table, you can see I've grouped this by client. So we could see that each one of these different clients has a bunch of projects. And I'm just going to skip over the task table and go to the payments table. And you can see that I've also grouped it by client here. So each client has a bunch of invoices that we've created for them. The tasks table is not directly linked to clients, but the tasks are actually linked to projects. I actually may want to group this by projects. You can visualize this a little bit better there. So when I go to the projects table here, you could see that this particular project has these three tasks associated with it. So this is basically how you would, set up a standard database in Airtable. But how would you visualize this in a portal for your clients? Well, I'm going to show you right now, and you're not going to believe how easy this is. So here I am in Noloco, and I've already set this up before the call, but I'm going to show you what I did behind the scenes. So over here in the left margin, these are your tools while you're building your portal. And these are the different screens that you will see. Your clients will not have access to these buttons over here. And the first screen that you would start with is your users tab right here. And this screen you will set up to synchronize to your users table. This is how you control who logs into Noloco, who logs into your portal. And so that will sync to your users table, and you will also set up different roles. So I've set up 3 different roles here, and that's because each role is going to have different permissions on what they're allowed to see in the client portal. So we have clients, we have team admins. That's if you're creating your Airtable database, you have access to everything. And then you have team members as well. And so today we're mostly going to just be talking about our clients. So you set up your roles, and then you come up here and you go to sync your users. And this is where you set up how people are going to be assigned to different roles. So I've got this set up as my default user role is a client, but I wanted to set up some people as team members. And I said that if the user is marked as an admin in Airtable, then I want them to be a team member. So everybody on the users table is going to start off as a client, but if I label them as an admin, then they become a team member. And you could see that back in Airtable here. I control that right from here. So anybody that I marked as an admin will automatically get team member privileges in my client portal. Basically, I'm going to give them more privileges than the client. They'll be able to see a little bit more information. So let's go back.
I think it's important to call out at this point, right? If you might have several different roles or personas within your Airtable base, but you could customize that as much as necessary, right? You could have 3 or 4 different conditional roles, right?
Exactly. That is a really, really great point. You could even, I have one of my clients that's even gotten that very, very granular, where different companies have different roles. So when one company logs in, they see a completely different set of information than another company logging in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can have as many roles as you want. So this is where you start. You start with your users, and then you move up here to the data table right here, or the data tab, I should say. And this is where you synchronize your different tables from Airtable. And you could see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tabs here, and those correlate with the 5 different tabs that we have right here in Airtable. So all of our data is coming into Noloco, and it is syncing back and forth between Noloco and Airtable. And this is one of the most important screens for you during your setup process, because this is where you will set up the permissions for what you want people to see when they're logged in to your portal. So for example, before I show you the permissions here, let's just go back into Airtable for a moment. So for example, we have one of our clients is John Wick, and he works at the Continental Hotel. And when he logs in, we want him to only see the projects that are associated with the Continental Hotel. So you'll see that in Airtable, we have 20 records. We have 20 projects on the screen. But when John Wick logs in, he's only allowed to see these 2 projects because these are the only 2 that are associated with his company. So how do you set that up in Noloco? Well, here in Noloco, you click on the projects tab right here, and you click on this permissions button. And when we go in here, this is where you set the permissions. And you'll see I've set up 2 different permissions here. One is for my team members, because they're going to get a little bit more access to things. But this is the one that we're going to focus on today. These are our client permissions. And what I've told Noloco is that when somebody logs in, they're only allowed to see the projects where the client is one of the logged in users' client's name. So basically what I'm saying is that when somebody logs in from Airtable, what we're going to do is from the users table, we're going to take a look at what their client name is in Airtable, and we are going to match it to that exact same client name from the projects table. So that's what this says right here. And the reason I chose is one of, because just in case that somebody was working for multiple different companies, I wanted to make sure that it could recognize all those different companies. You could also say is equal to as well, but I wanted it to be.
Absolutely. I think you bring up a really good point here, Scott. We see this all the time, but sometimes it's a case of, users aren't grouped by a client, but there's just a table of users that have the details, whereas sometimes there's multiple users in associated with a client. And we have found that this approach allows you kind of to cover basically all bases, right? You can build whatever needlessly complicated or needlessly simple rule that you need, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's very, very flexible, which is very nice.
Yeah.
And you create as many permissions as you want here as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is sort of the security that you're setting up. This is how easy it basically is to set up the security in your client portal. You're preventing anybody from seeing other clients' projects that are not related to them. And then check this out. You can go even deeper. You can set up which fields they are allowed to view, which fields they're allowed to update, and which fields they are allowed to create. Meaning if you give them permission to create a brand new record, which fields can they type into to create new data in a brand new record? So you can get very, very granular here with the permissions for what they're allowed to do. And so then you would just set up your different tables like that. I've done something very similar here with my payment table with the permissions here as well. And that's basically the back end setup. Then you would click on this tab here, which is the app tab. And this is the most fun tab of all, because this is where you start creating the interfaces, the pages that your clients will interact with. Now, I do want to show you something here that you'll be using a lot when you're working with Noloco. And it's this little toolbar down here at the bottom. And right now I am in build mode. And build mode is when you can go in, you can edit things and change things. But if you want to see what it's going to look like as one of your clients, what you would want to do is you'd want to get out of build mode. So I'm going to toggle this off down here. And now you'll notice that the screen looks a little bit cleaner. It jumped me to another screen actually. And now I'm actually viewing it as me, as if I logged in to the portal through Noloco. And by the way, you could have your own custom domain names and everything, just so you know, when you're using Noloco. And now if I want to view this as another user, I want you to watch what happens here. This is how you can change the experience So when you're building this, you can choose a user and see what it'll look like for them when they log in. So we were talking about John Wick a little bit earlier, and it shows me that he is one of my clients, and I'm going to select him. Now, before I press the select button, I want you to watch the left margin here. Right now, you'll see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 different pages available to me here. But watch what happens when I click on John Wick. Now, the left margin here is only showing 4 pages. That's because I have changed the visibility of some of those pages to only be shown to admins or team members. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But this is the John Wick experience right here. He logs in. This is going to be his first screen that he sees right here. By the way, he's not going to see this black left margin here. This is only because we're, technically we're still building, even though we're out of build mode. He won't see this. His leftmost margin is going to be this blue area right here. And then he can just say, click here, view your projects, or he can click on projects in the left margin. And you will see that he is only seeing his 2 projects right here. So if we were to go back into Airtable and I were to look at Continental Hotel, there it is, social media optimization and onboarding training manual. These are the 2 projects associated with that company. And if I go here, that's right. Let's say I want to switch to somebody else. Let's go in here and we will see, here's another company called Spider Consulting. So who is part of Spider Consulting? If I go to my users table here, I could also go to my clients table as well. And I see Spider Consulting. I see that we have 2 users, Peter Parker and Lisa Johnson. And so let's see what happens if I log in as one of them. If I pretend to log in as one of them, I'm going to view as another user here. And I am going to log in as Peter Parker. And now we're showing 3 projects right here. And those are the 3 projects that are associated with that company that those 2 employees are working with. Should I pause there for a moment for any questions, Darragh?
Yeah, I was just going to say we haven't had many come in, but I just want to want to hammer home this point. You've identified a really important part of building an app in Noloco, the viewing as another user. It's not only about kind of verifying what the permissions that you set up are correct, but it actually allows you to just kind of sense check and also just build trust in that the rules you set up won't actually leak information between clients, which at the end of the day is what you're looking to achieve by building out a client portal. And as you can see here, it's working perfectly. You switch between the 2, and it hides the other records that shouldn't be seen. If you were on a record, if you somehow loaded up a page that you shouldn't see, you wouldn't get access to it. And that's really what people want to know when they're building out a client portal. So using that view as another user tool, it's a great way to kind of verify what you've done is correct, but also kind of just build trust in the client portal that you will be shipping out to your clients.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's really great to be able to test it from everybody's point of view. Cool. So, I'm sorry, do you want to say something else?
No, I was just going to say we did have 1 or 2 questions. I guess you did touch on it, but someone asked how customizable is the portal in terms of branding? Like, what you've tried yourself. What would you say are the most easily customizable parts of the portal, and what can be customized down to even say the client?
The funny thing. Oh, in terms of branding or just in terms of customizability in general?
I guess both. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as far as customizing the entire portal as a whole, Noloco you can get down to such fine details of customization. Like there are so many advanced settings in here and I'll show you a couple of really cool things. You can change how the screen looks. You can drag things around. There's so many different choices for what you can put in the left margin here. It's really cool. And I'll show you a couple of cool things in a moment. And as far as branding, there's all sorts of cool things you can do. For example, you can change the color here. You can put your logo here. You can create your own custom domain. I'm probably forgetting at least 20 other ways you can brand it. Darragh, do you have any thoughts off the top of your head?
That's the main one. If you go back to the homepage, though, I think people like to personalize the first experience the user gets. A few things you can do here. Obviously, those quick links can be completely customized to, link out to your website, link out to, say, a Calendly if you want to book a call, but also the header at the very top. You can add a kind of hero image there, and you can even add a personalized or a dynamic image. So if the client had a logo, you could add their logo there just to kind of, again, build that trust between you and your client. So they know that they're in the right place, and they've kind of realized that they've logged into a personalized space for them.
That's right. That's right. And you can see there's a lot of different options here that you can click on. For example, you can add an iframe embed right here.
That's right.
And configure it over here. The amazing thing about the iframe that my clients love is that you don't just have to have a static URL for your iframe. You can actually pull it from a field in Airtable. So the iframe changes based on which client has logged in. Very similar to what you were just talking about a moment ago, where you can have an image at the top that changes based on which client has logged in to the portal. This is sort of like the amazing depth of this product. This is why I always recommend Noloco for my clients, because I haven't found a portal that is as, as advanced or as customizable as this. It's incredible. And you can see down here all the different things that you can put on a page. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these in a moment as well. Darragh, was there anything else you wanted to chat about in terms of customizability?
No, I think that was it. Michael had one quick question that I might as well cover. If you wouldn't mind just closing the sidebar there, Scott,
Oh, yeah.
so I can kind of fully explain. So Michael asked that the record counts on the left-hand side took a moment to catch up when you switched user. I think firstly, it's worth calling out, like, these record counts are a great way of kind of giving you and the client an overview over like how many things they would expect in the page. From a technical perspective, Michael, the end user never really switches user. So it's just a kind of a delay that we put into, because they're kind of slower to calculate, and it just kind of speeds up the app. So it's more of a technical reason. From the end user's perspective, if you were logging in as John Wick, say, you wouldn't ever notice the lag there in terms of the record counts populating.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. What Darragh's talking about is these little numbers right here in the left margin, which is very cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Airtable doesn't offer that, for the different views. You don't actually see at a glance how many records are on each view. And what's cool here is when the client logs in, they could see these little numbers. They're like, oh, I see I have 3 projects, 1 task, and 3 payments. And you could even customize those numbers to what you want them to show. Do you want them to show all the records, just the in-progress records, just the done records? Am I right about that, Darragh? I think I'm right about that.
Absolutely, yeah. We could go very deep on the filters and the sorting options that you could apply, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and
cool.
yeah, and like Darragh was saying, there was a delay in these numbers updating when I switched users, but that's only on the development end. There's that delay. Your normal users are not going to be switching between users, and if they do, the only way they can do it is by logging out, logging back in again, and then those numbers will be, for them,
Fresh.
and they will stay
exactly
as well.
Exactly.
So cool. Oh wait, was there any other questions, or should I move on?
No, I think we should kind of keep going with what you had planned. And there are a few questions, but we'll come back to them towards the end. I think they're better suited for kind of towards the end.
Okay, great, perfect. So right now, I'm going to actually get out of build mode. So I'm going to pretend that I'm logged in as a user, and I'm currently logged in as Peter Parker. And so because I got out of build mode, all the pages that Peter Parker was not allowed to see have now disappeared from the left margin here. And he has 3 projects. So he wants to go in, and by the way, you'll notice that the projects here are grouped. They're grouped by in progress and done. I have not found any other portals that enable this grouping functionality, which I love. My clients love, everybody loves it. It's one of the things people love about Airtable, that Airtable does grouping, and Noloco does it as well. So if we go back to Airtable for just a moment here, you'll see that this is where that status is chosen, done and in progress. So back in Noloco, your client logs in. We're looking at this as Peter Parker, and he wants to take a look at this in progress project right here. So you can click on this right here, and it zooms him into a customizable detail page that you can customize in many different ways. And then right here, he can change whatever he wants. So if he decides that this project is done, right now this is marked as in progress, he could just click right here, undone. And then if he wants to change something else, this right here, he doesn't even have to click on this edit button. He could just toggle this right here in Noloco. If he wants to change any of these other fields, he can just click on the edit button right here, and you can get right in here and just type things in. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that you can control everything for your clients. So if you don't want them to edit certain fields, if you just want them to be read-only, if you don't want them to see the field at all, just completely hide it, that's fine. You have complete control over every single element on this entire screen. So let's say that I'm Peter and I want to start typing in a little extra information here. I'll say, thank you for completing this project successfully. So I'm going to type that in, and then there's nothing else I need to change here. So I'm going to click on done. And you'll notice that when I go back into Airtable, if I look at the workplace wellness initiative, that was the one we were just looking at. It has been changed to done. And if I look at the notes here, here's the stuff I just typed in. Thank you for completing this project successfully. It's almost instantaneous. I think it actually is instantaneous. As soon as you edit something in Noloco, it immediately sends it back to Airtable. And when you edit something in Airtable, it will show up in Noloco. And I think, and for the most part, it's almost instantaneous going back from Airtable to Noloco. Is that correct, Darragh?
Yeah, that's right. We've actually opted you into one of our latest features, which is we're kind of sneak peeking, but yeah, for the large part, we sync the data into Noloco, which can take 30 seconds to a minute, but our latest feature is actually kind of in the tens of seconds, so it's very fast.
I love it. I love it. And by the way, those were not Noloco limitations. Those were limitations that Airtable had in the past, and they've removed those limitations. And so that's why everything is practically instantaneous both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you change something in Airtable, your client's going to see the change on their end. They change something when they're logged into Noloco, and you're going to see it in Airtable. That's really the beauty here, the beauty of Noloco and working with the portal. So if I go back out to the projects screen right here, well, you'll notice here now all three of these projects are done. They've all been grouped under the done grouping here. And you'll see that some of these actually have tasks attached to them. So here's a project called New Retail Outlet Launch. And it tells me right here that we have 2 tasks associated with that. If I were to take a peek back in Airtable, we'll see that here it is, the New Retail Outlet Launch. And we'll see that I have 2 tasks associated with this particular project. So if I go here and I click on here, I have decided that I could show those tasks right here on the screen if I wanted to, but I decided that I wanted to break these out into 2 different tabs up here at the top. This actually shows how customizable these screens can really become. So I'm going to click on the tasks tab right here, and it loads the 2 tasks that are associated with just this project. And then I could click on one of these tasks, and this is a screen that I set up that looked similar to that other screen. And I could change this to done. I can edit this. I could do whatever I want. And then if I go back here, and I go back, I'm taken back to my projects. And of course, if I wanted to look at that task in Airtable, that will now be marked as done as well. Here it is. I think that was one I did, conduct code review. It's now marked as done.
I think it was, yeah.
Good. Thank you. And yeah, so that's sort of an overview. Very similar with our payments tab here. I'm logged in as Peter Parker, and you could see that this screen looks a little bit differently. This is because I set up this screen to use a different type of display than what we were showing in those other tabs. But this is showing all the payments for this particular company. And again, I've grouped them by a category that I wanted to group them by. And let me show you how you can choose from different types of displays. So I'm going to go back into build mode right here. I'm going to turn that toggle on at the bottom. And then let's go back to our projects page here because we were spending a lot of time here. I'm going to actually click on these little arrow, these little dots here, and I'm going to go into advanced settings, and then I'm going to click on display. And this is, by the way, before I even show you this, look at all these different options you have in Noloco. Like, this goes so deep. Like, we would probably, Darragh, we should do like a whole weekend of like showing
We
people
should.
all the options in Noloco. It's
Yeah, we could do a webinar on each of those buttons.
exactly. It's,
Yeah.
and by the way, I don't mean to say that this is complex. This is one of the easiest tools you'll ever use in your life. It's just that it's so deep. You can do whatever you want. So check this out. These are the different types of views that are built in to Noloco. And if you don't like these built-in views, you can actually create your own view and drag things around wherever you want. So right now we're looking at a row view, and you already saw earlier, that's what the row view looks like. Take a look at what some of these other ones look like. This is what columns looks like. Here's what cards would look like. Here's a grid view. Show you a couple other ones here. You can have a board. This is a Kanban board, and look at this. You can drag things from one column to the next, just like you love to do in Airtable and their Kanban board. So as soon as I move this from there to there, in progress to done, changes that value in Airtable. So that's the board. You can have a calendar view. We don't actually have anything on this in projects that have dates on it, but if you added dates, they would show up on the right date here. You can have a timeline view, a Gantt view. You could have charts. You can have maps that are live communicating with Google Maps. You can just show one record at a time. This is the record detail screen. And a split view where you could put more stuff over here. So it's unbelievably cool. And one final thing before because I know we want to get to some questions. One thing I want to point out is I was mentioning earlier that these different pages can be either shown or hidden based on different criteria. For example, the criteria that I was talking about today is if you log in as a client or you log in as a team member. Of course, that's just the example that I gave today. You can make it based on any criteria that you want. And the way that you would set that up is you could see here that some of these pages are dimmed a little bit. What that means is that because I'm still viewing this as Peter Parker's not going to see those screens. How do you set that up? You go in here, you click on, or you hover over the page, you click on these little dots here, and you go back into advanced settings. And right now we're on the configuration screen. So this is, we talked about one of the things here. And there's so many more things for you to explore, but there's also another tab here called visibility. This is how you can control the entire visibility of that entire page. So for this particular page, which is the client's page, this is not the project's page. This is a list of our internal clients. I don't want clients to see this. So I've said that the visibility for this page is only for team members and team administrators. Clients are not allowed to see this page. Now, let's go to a page we do want our clients to see, which is projects. We want our clients to see their projects. So when I go here, I click on these little dots here. Once again, I go into advanced settings, and then I go to visibility, and you will see that I have set this up where everybody is allowed to see the projects page. It doesn't make a difference whether you're a team member, a team admin, or a client. Everybody is allowed to see the projects page. And you may be wondering, okay, yeah, but so where do we set it so the clients only see their own projects? Well, we set that up a long time ago. That was way back at the beginning on the data screen. We've already got that taken care of. This is one of the very, very first things we did at the beginning of the webinar. If we go into our data tab here and we go to projects, and we click on the projects, I'll click on projects here, and then I'll click on the permissions. This is where we say only the clients, so the logged in user, their client name has to match the client name in the projects table in Airtable. That's just a review. We already went through that earlier, but that's already taken care of for you. So you don't have to worry about that ever again when you're building the app here.
Yeah, no, it's a really great point, because I was going to ask, how does that work exactly? And I think you brought up a really good point. It might be worth showing just really quickly how you could filter those. Let's say you didn't want to show the in progress projects, or perhaps the done projects, the ones that are done, out of sight, out of mind sort of situation. If you don't have to maybe set up the filter, but maybe point people in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. Back on the data layer that we were just talking about, this is really like the master security, the master security for your app. But let's say you just want to, filter this for people automatically. You can go in here, go into advanced settings, and now we have a filter here. So we can say that we only want to show, oh, wait, let me see here. We only want to show where a project might be in progress but not done, right?
Exactly. So you just click the and button.
Oh, the and button. Let me see here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so what we would do here is, I think that field is called project status, I believe. And let me see. Let's actually just double check here real quick. Yeah, project status. And then we want to say that we only want the in progress records. So what I'm going to do. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you
if you just switch off dynamic value there, you'll get the kind of static values, which are just the options on that field, right?
Oh, exactly. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No worries. I knew
you
were gonna get there. Just jumping the gun.
And
right, you can see, right, the done ones are completely gone, which makes, you might have, this might just help you organize your app. You might have, one page for upcoming projects and another one for finished projects, or the same sort of filtering anywhere. You can obviously, as I think Scott's just about to show, you can add filter fields so that users could add these filters themselves.
Exactly. So yeah, there's two different types of filters here. So the first filter was filtering which records you want to show. And then this is filter fields. This is for your clients, so they can actually filter themselves by using these little drop-down menus and different fields that will show up at the top. So for example, if we were to remove the filter that we set, so I'm going to delete this filter, this takes us back to all three, but I turn on filter fields. So I just put project name and project status, we can put whatever else we want on here. You'll notice that, let's get out of here, and I'm going to get out of build mode, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm looking at I'm looking at, this is Peter Parker. I'm looking at all three of these projects, but he wants to come up here and say, I don't want to see the done projects. I only want to see in progress. And I click there, and it automatically filters the screen. And
one of many examples of the way you can customize your app, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of many, many, many examples. Yeah, there was something that I just thought of to show as well, but now I actually forgot what it was. But there's other cool things you can do as well. We won't have time to get into these, but you can create custom buttons on your screen. You can also create custom automations in Noloco. They're called workflows. And this is sort of like the automations that Airtable has built in. But these automations are actually going to be performed here by Noloco, and you can do all sorts of great things with these automations. They're really, really deep. Another cool thing that I want to show you very briefly is that Noloco also has the ability for you and your clients to communicate back and forth with comments. And that's this little button right here. It says record comments. If you open this up, you can have chats back and forth with your clients about a particular record, for example. This is actually different than Airtable's record comments, which is internal for your team. This is for you to interact with your clients. And you can also set this up to have internal communication here as well.
That's right. Yeah. If you were to stop doing as Peter, you'd get the option to toggle between sending a note or sending a reply, which I think is great, because it kind of bridges that gap between client communication and inter-team communication. We all know how difficult it can be juggling emails and Slack threads. bring it all into one place is really key. I think we might kind of cut you off there in terms of the demo, Scott. That was so great. I think everybody has a much better idea of what sort of things are possible when building a client portal in Noloco. We do have some great questions coming in.
Right.
So I think we'll
Oh,
switch over to them if that's okay
oh
with
yeah,
you.
let's do that real quick. Can I just tell them just one tiny thing that I'd like
Yeah,
them,
actually, that'd be
which
great.
is I want you guys, when you guys first start playing with Noloco, go to this templates tab at the top of the website, and you'll see that a lot of portals have already been created for you. And what's so cool is that these templates will also create the Airtable base for you as well. So you can you can actually set up an Airtable portal in about maybe 3 minutes by using one of these templates. It sets it up for you on the Noloco side, and it sets it up for you on the Airtable side, on both sides. And if you do need any help with this, please reach out to me at scottworld.com.
Yeah.
So I just threw in a little advertisement there, Darragh.
That's no problem at all. We'll definitely give you time to plug that at the end as well. Yeah, so we had some good questions, and I think Scott, you're in a great position to answer this one. So from Jakob, I hope I'm saying that correctly. He asked, "What's the main advantage of Noloco compared to Airtable's interfaces?" Yeah, I think you'd be best answering that, Scott. You're probably working in both, or have been at least for the last year and a half since Airtable interfaces was launched. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's several advantages. The downside, the big downside to Airtable's interfaces, well, there's a couple downsides, but the big downside is that every single person that logs into your Airtable interface has to have an Airtable account. So they have to be an Airtable user. They have to have an Airtable account, and then you let them in to certain interfaces. And there actually is not an element of privacy either with Airtable's interfaces. When people log into your Airtable interface, down in the lower left-hand corner, they can actually see a list of all your other clients that you have given access to your base. And the problem is you do have to actually pay for each one of those Airtable users if you give them editing ability. And with Noloco, you're basically just paying for up to 100 external users at one price. Then you just keep buying them in 100 blocks, basically.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, exactly.
So you're paying a much lower price with Noloco. So that's an advantage. So a couple of advantages right off the bat is they don't need to sign up for an Airtable account. Like a lot of times also, you don't even necessarily want your clients to even know you're using Airtable on the back end. You just want to brand it as your own company's experience. So
Exactly.
yeah, so there's the cost, there's the branding, there's the fact that they have to log in as their own user, there's the lack of privacy. There's no way you can shield them from seeing the list of your other clients. And then, of course, the biggest thing of all is that Airtable's interfaces don't have anywhere near, like not even on the same planet as the customizability that you get with Noloco. And I know there's Airtable employees on the call here. I'm totally not dissing Airtable. We all love Airtable, and interfaces is perfect for a lot of use cases for, smaller,
Absolutely.
Noloco gives you an entire world of opportunities that you can't get with Airtable's interfaces, like all the filtering, all the different displays, all the different buttons, all the different automations, all the different permissions. Yeah. You're building a real app here.
Yeah, I think that's a great jumping off for the next question, which is why might you prefer to use Noloco workflows instead of Airtable automations? I have some answers as well if you don't have anything up to mind, Scott. But I'd love to get your take.
Oh yeah. That's a great question. A lot of times you don't need to you may not even want to involve Airtable in your automations, because Airtable does have, relatively low limits on automations depending what plan you're on. But a lot of times your automations might just have to deal with some other app somewhere else. So if something happens in Noloco, you can have it trigger something like in make.com or somewhere else, or trigger a webhook somewhere else, and you're bypassing Airtable altogether. Other times, you may want to do something in Airtable based on what happens in Noloco. So, for example, if somebody makes a certain type of change in Noloco, you may want to record that somewhere else in Airtable, so you can actually trigger it that way. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that one correctly, but the idea is that you don't need to involve Airtable at all in the automations. Darragh, you said you had maybe some better answers than
Yeah,
that.
no, that's definitely a large part of it. The other part I would say is, so we have some of our actions, like you said, skip the Airtable step entirely. Also, some of Airtable doesn't have some of the actions that we provide, like integrating with OpenAI, and other things like that. But the main one as well is we have the ability to directly send emails that are kind of branded as per your portal brand, and would kind of you reply in that sense and have all of the context of your portal. And then as well, you can do things like send notifications, which are of course specific to your Noloco app. So you wouldn't even be able to do that in Airtable automations. I think
Oh,
they're the main ones.
that's a great point. Internal notifications in Noloco.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I totally forgot about
Or indeed just update another table in Noloco, whether that's Airtable or somewhere else. You don't need to jump to Airtable to do that, because it'd be quicker if it's done directly in Noloco as well.
That's right. And you
Cool.
actually brought up a good point there, that Noloco can feed in data from many different data sources, not just Airtable, and you can combine them all in the same app.
Yeah, we see a lot of people that use several Airtable bases in the same app, or indeed a few Airtable bases, a MySQL database, and a Google Sheet, all tied into the mix, all permissions set up correctly, and that central place for all of your data, for all of your clients' data, it really just makes it a lot easier to work. A few more questions. Someone asked what kind of notifications are available in Noloco regarding to the comment system. I might just jump in there. So when someone makes a comment, anyone who's previously commented on that record will get a notification both in app and in the email. But you can also subscribe to a record. So if you haven't got anything to say, but you do want to kind of follow along for updates, just like you could in, say, Slack or Microsoft Teams, you can say subscribe to notifications to the record, and then you'll get both email and in-app notifications on that. I think that answers that question. And of course, similar to that, you can, sorry, I forgot, you can also send comments to our workflows, which of course you couldn't do via Airtable, which also then feeds into notifications. So that kind of answers both questions. We actually have quite a few questions, so I might try fly through some of these. Sure. Marcus asks, can users save their own filters? So you touched a lot on filters, Scott. Do you want to touch on this, or do you want me to answer
sorry.
that?
Yeah, I don't know if I quite understood the question. Could you?
So basically, can users save their own filters? So I think how you set up a kind of custom filter there to show the only the done or only the in progress projects.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. Darragh, can users save their
Yeah,
own filters?
we get asked this a little bit. Not at the moment, no. What typically happens is the admin, which in this case was Scott, sets up several different views to kind of show different aspects of the data. You can set default values on different filters if you need to. And I guess if you really wanted, you could make those default values dynamic, and you could probably effectively create a way that people have created their own filter views, but not at the moment actually. But generally speaking, there's so much flexibility around the views that you can create that it's not strictly necessary. You can of course do what Scott did, which is allow users to filter different views, and you obviously they're all saved in the URL, so you could grab those and bookmark them or something like that if you needed to. I think that answers that. We do have probably time for one more question. Let me try and see. Yeah, so Justin asked about creating, customizing, and printing reports. I guess it's one thing you didn't touch on. Again, we could have done we probably will do a whole webinar on reports and dashboards in Noloco. But I guess, what's your experience so far been, Scott, regarding reporting in Noloco?
Oh, you know what? My clients have not asked for printing reports yet. basically, so maybe you could tell me about some of the deep printing functionality that's built in. My clients, they've been using reporting live on the screen and, with the charts, with graphs and things like that. But I haven't actually added any print buttons to my portals. Can you?
Yeah, no, I think generally speaking, if you're just printing the page will generate a decent enough version of the thing. We haven't done anything specific for printing. It's not something we asked about too much. But in terms of creating and customizing reports, they can. What the beautiful thing about the reports is, if you did want to say set up reports on, say, the number of tasks in a project, to kind of follow up on the example that Scott had, the permissions still apply. So you don't have to create customized reports per client. You can just set up your dashboard once and set up your permissions once. And then depending on which client logs in, they'll see the personalized report just to them. And of course, reports, just like collection views, can have all of the same filters that you can provide. So if they want to see report on just projects that are complete, you can make that happen. So incredibly customizable. Once again, you can customize all sorts of things like the axes, the visibility of an individual chart, what type of metric it is, basically everything.
One thing I should mention is that you can add buttons that trigger webhooks and other apps. So if you do have a very, very complex report, you can have somebody click on a button and you have an external app that's generating that report, and then it could be emailed to them or show up in an attachment field, which of course would then show up in Noloco automatically for them. So if you have really complex printing needs, you can do that with external apps and link it to Noloco, essentially.
Absolutely. We have lots of people who embed things like Google Data Studio or Looker Studio with personalized reports per client, because obviously you can use the iframe feature to embed dynamic URLs, right? If Noloco's reporting features don't kind of cut the mustard, or indeed if you need to pull in reports from different things, like say analytics data. But I think that's all that we have time for. There are one or two questions that we haven't quite answered. Oh, there's actually a few more coming in. Appreciate all the nice words in the comments as well. But yeah, thanks so much, Scott, for your time today. I just want to say big also thank you to Jakob. You had a great question about Airtable interfaces, so we're going to go send you a Noloco hoodie. I think Thomas from the team will be in touch regarding details. He'll just need your address and we'll get that out to you as soon as possible. Scott, before we finish up, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, yes. I'd like to say thank you so much for inviting me to do this webinar. It was so much fun. And if you guys would like to work with an expert Airtable consultant who can help you with any aspect of Airtable, including building incredible portals, please reach out to me through my website at scottworld.com, and we'll develop some incredible apps with each other.
Yeah, I have no doubt you will. All right, Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much. And thanks to everyone for attending as well. And we're wrapping up more or less just on time. So sorry. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, we will be sending the recording for this out in the post. We'll be sending the recording for this out by email just as soon as we can get it up on YouTube, and that'll be ready to kind of rewind and rewatch in your own leisure. And of course, we'll be doing these we'll have another one of these in just over 2 weeks. So keep an eye on your inbox for the invitations to that as well. Again, thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks so much.